Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a movie review that is actually one of my personal favorite Stallone films, and definitely one of his best films, and that's Copland, which I do have collector's edition. This is the director's cut. Came out 1997, August 6, 1997, but actually was filmed in through 11 July till 7 October 1996, was released in August 6, 1997. And I would say, out the back, one of the best Sylvester Stallone movies, one of my personal favorite movies. And directed and written by James Mangold, who did a great job. This is actually his second film he did, one of his best films. And this movie is fantastic. It's a fantastic movie. It's a fantastic action crime drama. I think is neo-noir crime drama film, but it actually has one action scene in it, but it's actually a crime drama film, and definitely one of the best 90s crime films I have ever seen. One of my personal favorite Sylvester Stallone movies, and Sylvester Stallone's best movie. Sylvester Stallone gives one of his greatest performances in this movie ever. He gained 40 pounds to play Sheriff Hefner. To play Heflin, to play Sheriff Freddie Heflin. He gained 40 pounds for making this movie. By him was also Robert De Niro, and Robert De Niro he wasn't like convinced that Sylvester Stallone can act. For most of the people who say that Sylvester Stallone can't act, watch this movie, watch Rocky, watch First Blood, watch this movie, Copland. Even Robert De Niro was actually surprised by his acting. That's one of the reasons they actually reunited and collaborated together in, I think it was 2010, in that movie Grudge Match they played. I think it was 2010. They actually played respectively their characters, just different characters. But I think that Robert De Niro was impressed with the acting performance by Sylvester Stallone. And like I said, Sylvester Stallone's best movie. It's definitely one of the best movies I have ever seen. This is director's cut. I don't know that much about theatrical cut, but I do have one complaint on theatrical cut. By the finale, when Freddie Heflin brings Babbage to the court. In the theatrical cut, we actually see the man is actually still a sheriff. I mean, it's still like a fucking sheriff, and he's like have to go now chase some speeders out there, and like the movie fucking ends. I mean, that was a lame ending, because the director's cut has much better ending. And the ending, I have to explain the ending. The ending when Sheriff Heflin brings Babbage to the cops in New Jersey, to Mo Tilden Internal Affairs, and all the cops that shows up, and when Mo Tilden takes them, you have a narration by Robert De Niro, which in theatrical cut is cut that narration. You have a great narration by Robert De Niro, and then you have like a narration from the news, and you see a CD, and you try to figure it out, so what happened to Sheriff Heflin? What happened to Sheriff Heflin? Did he be? Maybe they because the fan. Because the viewer keeps guessing what happened to his character. Did he finally got what he wanted to be a cop? That he got the offer to be a chance, and they probably take him. Maybe he became an internal affair. Maybe he became a detective. Because the viewer keeps guessing what happened to the character. That's what I was like, well, guessing. So what happened to his character? I don't think he stayed the sheriff. I think he got promotion and he finally was taken by a police academy because they figure out he's a good guy and they need people like him, and that's one of the reasons why I shit on theatrical cut and I'd rather watch director's cut. I think director's cut is better in my opinion. This Blu-ray also has feature commentary with director James Mangold, producer Kathy Conrad, Sylvester Stallone, Robert Patrick, Copland, The Making the Urban Western, the latest 10 storyboard comparison, and this is the back. But this movie is a classic. I would say a classic. I would say a pure classic. It's definitely one of Stallone's best movies. My top 3 90s movies that Stallone did is actually this movie, the Demolition Man, Cliffhanger, and this movie, Copland. This movie came out in August 6, 1997. I was only 13 years old when this movie came out. Sylvester Stallone, that time, he was still at the top of the world. He was still at the top of the world. He was in the best shape of his life. He gained 40 pounds. I remember on Scream 2 VHS 2 years later when I bought it, back in 99, I saw the trailers for Copland. There's a theatrical trailer, but not the theatrical, a different trailer from Miramax in which we see Sylvester Stallone watching the clock, and then you hear, "We're watching you, Freddy," and that trailer. I think that's the latest scenes in that trailer. But yeah, Copland is one of my personal favorite movies that Sylvester Stallone did. His best, greatest performance since Rocky Rambo, since Rocky First Blood, Rambo First Blood. His greatest performance. Both action stars, Sylvester Stallone, Schwarzenegger, they actually played sheriffs. So in First Blood, John Rambo, Sylvester Stallone was driving in a sheriff's car, being pushed away by sheriff. In this movie, he plays sheriff respectively, and that's fantastic. And also, Arnold Schwarzenegger played sheriff in The Last Stand as Ray Owens. But if I'm honestly, Sheriff Freddie Heflin is much better sheriff than Ray Owens. I think Sheriff Freddie Heflin would actually went and kicked Sheriff Owens' ass. Such a badass he was, and I enjoyed the character Sylvester Stallone plays. I enjoy his character. I mean, it's dark, it's gritty. The reason why this movie is, to me, is one of the greatest films is because it's dark, it's gritty. It has all practical effects. It doesn't have that much action scenes, but it's actually an action neo-noir crime film, and that's awesome. Filled with few action scenes. And Copland talks about this Garrison, New Jersey. That's actually a town of Garrison in New Jersey, which is actually the town of cops. It's called Copland. Is a town of cops. My dog. So Sheriff Heflin always dreamed to be a cop, but instead he's a sheriff. He's taking the peace in a town, and he's friends with fellow cops. One of the cops are actually Ray Donlan, played by Harvey Keitel, and his fellow officers like Gary Figgis, played by Ray Liotta, Robert Patrick, plays Jack Rooker, Peter Berg, Joey Redon, John Spencer as Leo Krasky, and Arthur J. Nascarella plays Frank Lagonda. They're actually fellow officers. They are actually friends. Unaware, Freddy does not know is that those cops are all corrupt cops with a mob. The mob are actually working with cops. They're all corrupt cops. They are smuggling. They are smuggling drugs. They are washing money, and they're looking other ways around. They're all corrupt cops, led by Ray Donlan. Ray Donlan, not Roy. Ray Donlan, and And Sheriff Heflin, he tries to be a good guy. He tries to help people. When he's actually deaf on an ear. Don't ask me which one. He's a deaf on an ear because he was saving as a teen. He was witness a car accident. He was saving that teen girl. Liz Randon, played by Annabella Sciorra. Yeah, I read that on trivia that there are a few casts who also appeared in Soprano. Annabella Sciorra, who plays Liz Randon, the love interest to Sylvester Stallone's character, Freddie Heflin. She was also Gloria Turillo in The Sopranos, and I was wondering where do I know the actor since she was in Sopranos. And Edie Falco as Bomb Squad Berta, she was also in The Sopranos. She played Tony Soprano's wife. But you can see in the open scene when she asks him, do you mind, when Freddy is playing in the pinball player and he keeps staring at Figgis and his friends, and better like, do you mind? That's her, that's Edie Falco. And later, Edie Falco, on the end when Freddie Heflin shows up in the city to talk to Mo Tilden, you can see her once again, and when she turns around, you can see it's titled Bomb Squad. But the most of the movie, I love the uniforms, the costumes, and yeah, it's also Stallone's best turn since Rocky. I do agree with that. But Sylvester Stallone as Sheriff Freddie Heflin did a great job. So, like I said, Freddie Heflin is friends with Ray Donlan. I always forgot his last name, with Ray Donlan, and his best friend is actually Gary Figgis. Yeah, that's him. Ray Liotta, Gary Figgis, that's his best friend, and he's friends with Ray Donlan, played by Harvey Keitel. And and like I said, there's actually a nephew of Ray Donlan. Michael Rappaport plays. Too bad he's not on this cover, but he plays Murray Babich, Superboy, his nephew of Ray Donlan. One day he's actually in the bar drinking, and while he's leaving, he sees two friends of him, Jack Rooker and I think was Leo Krasky, played by John Spencer. And who, because Jack Rucker is actually throwing up, because he had way too much drinks, and on the way to his home, there's actually a car with two black kids, hitting Superboy's car. And because they put damage, there are actually two junkies who are taking drugs. And Superboy identifies himself as a police officer. He showed his badge. He said twice, stop the car. And one of the kids puts a pipe, on him. It's actually a pipe, a smoking pipe, for smoking joints and marijuana. And unaware, because Babich had too much drink and he cannot clearly see, he thought the kid put a gun on him, and when his tire blew up, he thought the kid fired at him, and Babich grabbed a gun. He grabs a gun and shoots on the car and kills both the kids, and he crashed with the car. Great practical effect. The car really crashed. That scene. That's the scene on the bridge. On the bridge, the car crashed. I love that scene. The car crashed. And when the cops are making an investigation, they found no guns except a bag of drugs, no guns. And because now Babbage Superboy, he made a bet, he made actually a real bad turn on his uncle. And the more the internal affairs, the cops will make a huge investigation, the more they're gonna find out that Ray Donovan is a corrupt cop and he can't afford it. So they stage, because one of the cops, Jack Rooker, played by Robert Patrick, puts the gun to those kids, tries to he tries to cover the whole situation. They found automatic weapon. One of the paramedics, one of the black paramedics, says that's bullshit, and they get in an argument. So now they can't cover up. And more they're gonna get, the more they're gonna find investigation, they're gonna find out that Ray Donovan is a corrupt cop and he can't afford it because he's tied with a mob. He's get a share, he's get tons of money. And he can't afford that his cover gets loose. Gary Figgis' friend, his partner, was accused of being corrupt, and he was killed in a prison, in a cell, because he wanted to talk. And because they can't cover up that Babbage really defend himself, that he actually made a fatal mistake, and he killed his career as a cop is over because he made a mistake. He killed 2 kids, because he had a few drinks. He will be kicked off the force and he will never get a job. And he will also make a bad stain on Ray Donovan because he's his uncle. And Ray cannot afford that. He cannot afford to have now an investigation on him. So instead, by covering up that Babbage defended himself, they cover up instead that he jumped out the bridge, which he did, and he hid in Ray's car. Ray and Jack Tucker went and they drive him away, while they everything thought that he drowned, that he jumped out the bridge and he drowned. And meantime, the new deputy sheriff with Sheriff Heflin, Cindy Betts, played by Janine Garofalo. Janine Garofalo, she was in that film Clay Pigeons. I think she played FBI agent. So anyway, when Jack Rucker and Ray Donovan are speeding with the car, Cindy stops them, and she tries to give them a ticket, but because they call Freddy, because they're friends with Freddy let him go. But he sees Babbage in the back, and because in the bar, they talk, and of course, Ray Donovan confessed that he's hiding Babbage, and he's also thinks that that Freddie Heflin is actually one of his friends. And when they go in the funeral, Ray Donovan goes and he makes introduction to one of his friends, in which he can take Freddie Heflin, because he get him a job. And also there's like a love interest, when Freddie Heflin is actually friends with Liz Randon. She's actually married to Peter Burke as Joey Randon. She's actually married to him, and it just doesn't look like that great. They're like arguing all each other. He's like, I think he's having an affair with Ray's wife. Because in the funeral I saw the sign, so I think they have an affair, and that was the argument with Liz. Also, and because the mob, they say that they can't hold anymore, that they need a body, there's gonna be actually the mayor's also corrupt, and mayor will stop if they found a body, but the investigation, but because that doesn't work, it just doesn't work, so they try to kill Babbage. they try to drown him, and of course, Rose Donlan, wife of Ray Donlan, played by Kathy Moriarty, she warned Babbage, but Babbage escaped, because they tried to drown him. He escaped, and later he decides to try to find help, and he confronts Freddy. He goes and confronts Freddie Heflin, but because Freddy's friends with Gary Figgis, he runs in the woods and he's hiding himself in the woods. In meantime, there's an because Ray Donovan wants to shut out Gary Figgis, and because there's actually an argument between Gary Figgis and Jack Rucker, and because Gary gets pissed and punches him because he says, "Oh, at least I don't screw a hooker," and Gary goes, punches him and grabs him and takes that picado, tart, and puts it in his nose. That was actually made out of rubber. It wasn't a real, but he puts the dart. He was threatening him. Meantime, the house of Figgis gets burnt, and the girl that Figgis was helping, she died. She died from burn because from all the burns that she sustained. And so now Figgis was living by on the station by Freddie Heflin because they were friends. Also, also Freddie has a deputy, and that's that's Deputy Bill Geisler, played by Noah Emmerich, is in this movie. So yeah, he's also like his deputy Bill Geisler, he actually stops a couple. I think they were speeding, and meantime, under the bridge, Freddy has actually a flashback, when he was just eating lunch, and he, as a teen, and he saw a car fall out of the bridge, and it also shows how he saved, the young girl. It was actually his Rendon. He saved her, or Rendon. He saved her. By that time, those two couple goes and yelling at Freddy, which I like that. Just like in the open scene, Freddy goes and crashes the car because he sees a deer, and he turns the wheel and crashes it. He broke his nose. He even have a scar, because he broke his nose. He has a scar, but he broke his nose. He keeps wearing that that thing for the wounds through his nose, which I enjoy that, which I like that. So because Gary Figgis gets actually insurance money, and he sees, and because they checked he went and they checked the whole they checked whole house. He finds an evidence that maybe Figgis was involved, and when he goes back to the house, Figgis tells him that yeah, he did that because he wanted to get money. He get out. He didn't know that Monica will return. He was the one that set up he was the one that actually set up the house. I forgot to mention there's also a carnival scene when he's in carnival, and he shoots with a paintball gun, misses the first but hits 5 times. There's like Jack Rucker shows up and hits in it, or in the bathroom. When Freddie Heflin asks him, "Where were you?" He says, "Oh, I was." He doesn't give him where he was, but he says, "I had nothing to do with it." He was like, he goes like, Sheriff Heflin goes in the car, and there's like I think was Leo Gas, I think was Leo Kreski shows up, tells him to tell where the Superboy is. We're watching you, that scene. And of course, Heflin says, I'm gonna find him. Also, Cindy waits by him, Cindy says, I'm gonna go, I don't want nothing to do with it, I'm gonna go back, to my old job, so she leaves. Bill Geiser also doesn't back him up. He's actually have too many drinks in the bar. But Sheriff Heflin, he also have a romance with Liz. And also Joey Rendon, her husband, he gets killed, because he saw Murray, he saw Murray Babbage run away. He had nothing to do with it. He didn't want to back up his friends, his fellow officers, so he gets killed by a black pusher, black drug dealer. He gets thrown out of the roof, and Ray gonna save him, but he sees that and he stalls the fellow cops, so Joey Rendon falls in his death. In the meantime, Liz and Freddy, they have a romance, which I enjoyed that. I think that Annabella Cioras, Liz Rendon did a great job. She was great as love interest to Freddy, even though she was married to Joey Peter Burke. But I enjoyed that, even though she had kids. She did a great job. So now, because Sheriff finds out that this city is dirty, so 2 weeks ago he was also confronted by Robert De Niro because he's Mo Tilden. He's actually internal affairs. He's actually by internal affairs, and he's investigating Ray Donlan and Murray Babbage. And because Ray they're actually both classmates on academy. They graduate together, but now Mo Tilden, he's an internal affair police officer, while Ray Donlan is actually a police officer, And like I said, no one is above the law. And Mo Tilden tries to find evidence to connect the dots, to connect Ray Donovan, to finally get him arrested, but did not work. And with one call, Mayer stops the investigation. And he also goes to Freddy, and tells him to do something, to be a cop, but Freddy doesn't do it. But when Joe Rendon gets killed, and when Joe Rendon gets killed, and when Babbage, asks his help, he goes to Mo Tilden and tells him that Babbage is still alive, but the case is shut, because you see, like, Mo Tilden gets pissed. He says this case is closed. He grabs that map and rips the map away, shows the map away, and says, go to lunch, it's over, get the hell out of here, go to lunch, it's like over. And that time, like, Freddie Heflin shows up, and he says Babbage is still alive, we can do something. And when that was actually when you see Mo Tilden eating sandwich, that was improvised, because it was a real lunch to the actors, but it was improvised by Robert De Niro. And and says, listen, and actually wrote the beautiful quotes. I love these quotes. Listen, you damn fuck, I offered you a chance when we could have done something. I offered you a chance to be a cop, and you blew it! I love that quote. One of my favorite quotes, Listen, you damn fuck, I offered you a chance when we could have done something. I offered you a chance to be a cop, and you blew it! I love that, And Sheriff Heflin goes back. He grabs the files, tries to find out more information about these cops. They're all like on mob's PayPal, on paycheck. They're like on a paycheck on the mob, or the connected to the mob. And he finds out that police officer was killed. they also killed. They tried to kill Babbage because he can talk. They burned Figgis' house. It turns out that Figgis himself burned the house because he needed the money to get out of this out of this life, and Figgis leaves. He goes, leaves, but he turns back. And of course, Freddy, he confronts Rose Donlan. He goes and confronts Rose Donlan and asks her where Babbage is. She tells him. He climbs on that water tower, and he tells her, "Come with me," and he convinces Babbage that he goes with him. He goes and drives them in the police station. He goes to Ray and he says, "Ray, there's a way out. I have Babbage. Let's go out. Let's go to the police station to stop this once and for all." And Ray Donovan, Donovan doesn't want to listen to him, and he says, "Who the hell do you think you are? Sheriff of the garrison, New Jersey? Then be a sheriff!" He gives and screams at him. And of course Ray Donovan does not want to listen. Tomorrow at 6, I'm gonna take him to the city of New Jersey. And in the morning at 6, Babbage and of course Sheriff Heflin, they go out of the police station because he's gonna bring him in to the police station to stop to clean the town. And that time the cop shows up. And Robert Patrick grabs his Glock, 9mm Glock, and fires in the ear of Sylvester Stallone, and that was a really dangerous scene. Well, if you watch this movie, Die Hard, Bruce Willis really became deaf after he was shooting way too close, and I'm surprised that Stallone did not get deaf, but Bruce Willis did in the first Die Hard. And he goes to the Glock and shoots in the right in front of his ear and make him deaf. And Sylvester Stallone, when they grab Babbage and they escape with Babbage, Donlan, Rooker, Frank Lagonda, Leo Kraski, and of course Sylvester Stallone goes with his shotgun, with his shotgun Ithaca 37 12 gauge, and his revolver Smith & Wesson model 686 4-barrel. With his shotgun, he goes to Ray's house, and one of the cops grabs his gun, his service revolver, and fires on Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester Stallone grabs his shotgun, Ithaca 37 12 gauge, and he goes and fires. He fires, and shoots him. And because Jack Ruckner shows up, and Sylvester Stallone tries to shoot him again, he tries to reload his shotgun, but the bullets get stuck, so he throws the shotgun, grabs his revolver, Smith & Wesson model 686, and shoots and fires and shoots and kills. He goes and kills Ruckner right in the sun. Bam, he kills him. Robert Patrick falls down dead, great blood spit. And then in the mirror, he sees the guy tries to grab the gun. I think that it was actually Okreski, John Spencer. He grabbed he tried to shoot him, and I love it. Sylvester Stallone goes and fires twice, and kills him, bang, bang. But then gets shot by Frank Lagonda, gets shot in the back, and that time Figgis shows up and shoots and kills the guy, and also shoots on Ray and misses him. And Sylvester Stallone goes upstairs and sees that Babbage tries to escape, and behind his back, Ray shows up, and Sylvester Stallone turns around, shoots him, bang, kills him. He kills 3 corrupt cops, and Ray is like talking something, and Sylvester Stallone says, "I can't hear you, Ray." And he goes and grabs Babbage with Figgis. They go now to the town. All the cops surround it, and Matilda decides to take the statement. They go in the police station, and Sheriff Heflin can hear, and Mo says it's okay, and they go together. And that time we see narration by Robert De Niro, and we see the narration by the news that they now arrested all the corrupt cops, and they arrested the mob, and they thought Sheriff Heflin would not recover, but he did. And that's what's my point. I try to guess what happened to his character, but the theatrical cut ruined everything. It ruined theatrical cut. That's one of the reasons I prefer this cut, because it's much better. It's much better. It has also great music scores. I think that the music scorer, music composer Howard Shore did a great job. I think he did a great music score for this movie. Bruce Springsteen was also on the score. Bruce Springsteen was also on the score. I enjoy Santa's Stolen Car by Bruce Springsteen, when I think that's the song that Sylvester Stallone was listening. I enjoy Burning for You, Blue Oyster Cult. It was actually the song when Sylvester Stallone confronts Ray in the party. That was the song when I enjoyed it. This movie cost only $50 million, but worldwide made $44 million. Directed by James Mangold, who also did the Wolverine and Logan. James Mangold, he did a fantastic job. I think that his wife produced this movie, I'm not sure, but I remember last year when I reviewed this film. And also now to the cast, Sylvester Stallone gives one of his greatest performances. It's Rambo, Rocky, Cliffhanger, and this movie behind me, Demolition Man, his great performance. Like I said, this movie is my favorite. Cliffhanger and Coppola is my favorite. So that's Sheriff Freddie Heflin. That's Ray Donlan, played by Harvey Keitel. He's a great villain. I love the guy. Ray Liotta, he plays Gary Figgis. And that's Mo Tildon, played by Robert De Niro as internal affairs, inspector. And watch I love Sylvester Stallone, the shotgun. He goes and shoots, I think he shoots Leo Kraski, which I enjoyed that, played by John Spencer. He uses his Smith & Wesson model, his revolver, and shoots Robert Patrick. Sylvester Stallone and Robert Patrick did both collaborated together in Detox, aka I See You. I reviewed that film on my channel. And I think that Harvey Keitel did a fantastic job. The rest of the cast, I think that Annabella Sciorra as Liz Rendon as the love interest to Freddie Heflin was excellent, was fantastic. Michael Rapaport as Murray Babbage did a good job as Superboy. Robert De Niro as Mo Tildon was fantastic. Robert De Niro also later did Jackie Brown. If you see him in that movie with mustache and that hair, because he was shooting 2 films back to back. Robert Patrick as Jack Rucker. Like I said, Stallone and Patrick did reunited in Detox, like I See You. Robert Patrick was also in Terminator 2 Judgment T-1000 he played. He was fantastic. He was also John Daggett in The X-Files. Was not a fan of Season 8, especially not Season 9. Peter Berg as Joey Rendon did a good job. Arthur Jane as Sarella did awesome as Frank Lagonda. He was a real NIPD officer. Noah Hemmerich as Deputy Bill Geiser did a good job. Janine Garofalo as Deputy Cindy Bettis was great. Annabella Sciorra as Liz Rendon was fantastic, was awesome. Robert De Niro was amazing. Once again, he's awesome. I love the guns used, the soundtracks. was released on August 6, 1997. I was only 13 years old when this movie came out. Sylvester Stallone was on the top of his world. He was at the top of his game. He was at the top of his world. Sylvester Stallone was fantastic at that time. Like I said, I was only 13 years old at the time. I was in Italy over the summer. I saw Gargaland. It's actually it's like Disneyland, Disney World. I saw Gardaland that time. It was fantastic when I drive with a roller coaster. 1997 was actually the year, was actually one of my favorite years. Also, the city is also in Garrison, New Jersey. Garrison is based on Mangold's hometown of Washington, New York. It's actually a fictional town. It's not real, but Garrison is based on Mangold's hometown of Washingtonville, New York. Located 60 miles from New York City. The principal shooting location from the film was Edgewater, New Jersey. They actually really did filmed in Edgewater in New Jersey, in real New Jersey. Just town of Garrison is actually a fictional town, but it's based on Mangold's hometown, which is awesome. Washingtonville, New York. Like I said, Arthur J. Nascarella was a real-life NYPD officer. And also Sylvester Stallone gained 40 pounds to add realism to his portrayal of the sheriff. He gained 40 pounds, but he also lost later 40 pounds. But yeah, Copland is definitely one of my personal favorite Sylvester Stallone movies. One of his best films. Is my top 10 favorite Stallone movies. Like I said, Demolition Man, Cliffhanger, and this movie are actually his best 90s action films. That's one of the reasons I actually skipped. I did not went and I did not review yet Judge Dredd, Assassins, and Daylight. I will do that, but I would rather review the movies that I enjoy. But this is gonna be for this week until I think Friday or maybe Saturday or maybe next week. I'll do the Rocky films. But for a while I'm gonna review the final Sylvester Stallone movie, and I'm glad I do have this in collector's edition. Just show you the disc. Copland, fantastic movie. I'm fascinated with this movie. It's a fantastic movie. I love the uniforms. I love the portrayal of Sheriff Heflin. It's like he acts like me. That's me. I know that's not me, but man, I miss this kind of movies. One of the best 90s action movies of all time. It's not one of the best action, but one of the best 90s crime thriller movies ever. Neo-noir crime drama. It's a badass movie. I really enjoy this film. Copland is one of my favorites. It's my movie. Those are my movies. It's my movie. It's still rated R. It still have like a blood scenes. But I'm just gonna read this back. Action hero extraordinaire Sylvester Stallone headlines James Mangold's director's cut of this edgy crime thriller that explodes with an all-star cast including Robert De Niro, Harvey Keitel, Ray Liotta. Freddie Heflin is the sheriff of a small and seemingly peaceful town populated by the big city. Police officers he's long admired, but when he uncovers a massive deadly conspiracy among these local residents, he's forced to make dangerous choice between protecting his idols and upholding the law. No one is above the law. I forgot this fact. Sylvester Stallone actually wanted the role of Gary Figgis, while Ray Liotta wanted to play Sheriff Freddie Heflin. He wanted the role of Sheriff Freddie Heflin. I'm glad it did not happen. I'm glad that Sylvester Stallone got the main star, that he got the role of Sheriff Freddie Heflin. I love his performance. Sylvester Stallone once again proves that he's an actor, that he can act. Watch him in First Blood or in Rocky. Watch him in Demolition Man. Watch him in this movie. Watch him in Tango Cash, Cliffhanger, Cobra. Cobra is underrated action film. You know, Sylvester Stallone is still a badass. You know, he knows how to act, and he's great. His portrayal is fantastic as Sheriff Freddie Heflin. I mean, I love that he listened to the song of Bruce Springsteen. I'm glad that they cast Bruce Springsteen in this movie. I mean, this was like released 1997, that I was 13 years old. My childhood memory. Sylvester Stallone was at top of his game. Yes, I said it 3 times. I'm gonna say it again. He was on his top of his game. And they don't make movies nowadays anymore. They don't make sci-fi movies like this anymore. You know, like Demolition Man. They don't make them like this anymore. They don't make like Demolition Man anymore. They don't make like movies like Copland anymore. It's rated R, it has bloody scenes, and I love that it's actually more dark, it's more gritty, it's more dark. It's actually Sylvester Stallone in his serious role, and he's not just pumping iron like in The Specialist. You know, that's one of the reasons that Specialist did not work. But this movie did work. This movie did work. It did work. You know, they work well. I think the cast did fantastic. James Mangold was a king to direct this movie. He was a great choice, and I'm glad that Sylvester Stallone did something else. That he did a serious role. You know, that he didn't make fool out of himself like he did in Stop or My Mom Will Shoot or Rhinestone. He embarrassed himself in Rhinestone. You know, I'll definitely watch this movie anytime. But yeah, that's my movie review on Copland. I mean, like, budget made only $50 million, but worldwide $44 million. Was 1997. Anyway, I enjoyed this film. I love this movie to death. One of my personal favorite. I actually put this movie in the action genre. One of my personal favorite movies of all time. One of my personal favorite Sylvester Stallone movies. Definitely my favorite James Mangold movie that he did. He directed the Wolverine and the Logan, but I'll put this movie above both Wolverine movies because that's my movie and that's just me. Anyway, that's now my movie review on Copland. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon in the next franchise that's gonna be Rocky for the Sylvester Stallone. Anyway, I'm out. Take care. Peace.